Hello, I'm Vishnu. I bought this credit card sized computer recently and it is an amazing piece of technology for its price. Don't judge it by the size, it is quite powerful. To put it into perspective, it is twice as quick as the Intel NUC that I reviewed earlier. This tiny computer is called a Raspberry Pi 5 and it is the latest and fastest model from the Raspberry Pi Foundation. I explained you the features of this Pi 5 when I unboxed it. In this video, I will show you how to set up the cooling, how to power it on, and also how to install the operating system on the Pi 5. Trust me, this is as simple as eating a cake. Just enjoy the show and you will pick plenty of useful info along the way. This here is a Raspberry Pi 5. Unlike previous generation of Pis, this one has a faster processor. With speed, the power and cooling requirements have also increased. The Pi 5 needs to be powered from this USB-C port. This is the official power supply for the older Pi 4 model. It uses USB-C, but the output current is only 3 amps. It will work, but there are some caveats which I will explain in this video. The Pi 5 needs a 5 amp power supply to function at its best. But since it is launched recently, there is a shortage of power supplies in the market. This is the new active cooler of the Pi 5. The heatsink is made of anodized aluminium and the blower is integrated on top of it. A faster processor produces more heat and an active cooler is essential to dissipate the heat. Without that, the processor will reduce its clock speed and run slower to protect itself from damage. With this cooler, the Pi 5 can run at full clock speed all the time. The aluminium heatsink will absorb the heat from the components and this radial blower will dissipate the heat away. A blower is a better design than regular fans, which is why it is used in laptops and mini PCs. It is compact in height and less noisy. It has good airflow and has a longer service life. The fan is powered by the header on the Pi via this 4-pin connector, again much like the laptop fans. The fan spins between 30% and 100% depending upon the temperature of the Pi, and it is automatically controlled by the firmware of the Pi 5. It sucks air from here and throws it out towards the aluminium fins. One thing though, it would have been better if these fins are angled slightly. Quite clearly, the first row of fins are blocking 70% of the airflow, which will reduce the cooling to a certain extent. It will also increase the noise level. A curved design is much suitable for this fan sink. On the other side, 3 thermal pads are pre-applied to the fan sink. By the looks of it, this one will stick to the power circuitry, this one over the processor, and this one over the wireless chip. Looks like the RP1 silicon chip does not get all that warm, and it is probably the reason there is no thermal pad for it. Installing the fan sink is easy. These plungers lock to the circuit board and the spring design will help maintain the contact pressure over the years. This is just like the stock Intel fan sinks from earlier, a simple and proven design. These are the mounting holes for the fan sink. Align the plunger to the mounting hole and apply just enough force to lock it in place. Just be careful not to apply excessive force on the edge of the board. The fan connects to this pin, but you need to remove the plastic shield first. The pin is unidirectional. The yellow wire should be closer to the edge of the board. Once you align it, push the pin down thoroughly. Installation of the fan sink is complete and the Pi 5 will stay cool no matter how hard you run it. A case will protect the Pi from shorting. There is an official case for the Pi 5. It comes with a built-in fan, but since we have installed a fan sink already, the fan that comes with the case will have to be removed since both do not fit. Without the fan, the case is as good as any plastic soap box. So, I'm going to use this bottom plate from my old Pi 4. The fan sink that we installed offers much better cooling performance than the case fan anyway. The Pi 5 needs just one more component to get going, and that is the storage. The Pi's operating system will be installed to this storage device. You can use a microSD card. Class 10 rated card will work reasonably well. The new RP1 chip on the Pi 5 can access the SD card at double the speed compared to the previous generation of Pis. For more speed and reliability, you should go for a SATA SSD instead. The Pi can boot from USB, so To connect this SSD through the USB, you will need a USB to SATA connector. Just plug in the SSD to the SATA port of the adapter. The Pi 5 has a couple of USB 2.0 ports and USB 3.0 ports. You should connect the adapter to the USB 3.0 port since it is 10 times quicker. In the setup, the Pi 5 can read-write to the SSD in excess of 300 Mbps. Both the SSD and the adapter are inexpensive, and I will leave the links to the right products in the description. Connect the power pin. Being USB-C, it will work in either direction. Then plug in the micro HDMI connector for the display. This pin is unidirectional though. What next? Power it on? No. Where is the operating system for the Pi? Unlike regular PCs, you cannot install the Raspberry Pi OS from a USB stick to the SSD. It must be installed on another computer. Fortunately, the process is simple. Connect the adapter to the USB of a PC, search for Raspberry Pi OS, and download the Raspberry Pi imager first. I will do this on a Windows computer, but the process is similar on other operating systems as well. The Pi 5 will need a 64-bit version of Raspberry Pi OS named Bookworm. It is available in 3 different sizes depending upon the applications that are packed in with it. I will just download the full version, which is around 2.7 GB. Install the imager first. This program will write the image to the disk. Click Choose Device and select Raspberry Pi 5. Then click Choose OS, and a list of all compatible OS for the Pi 5 are shown. However, we have already downloaded the image, so scroll down and choose Use Custom. Navigate to the downloaded image of the Raspberry Pi OS and select it. Then click Choose Storage and select the SSD. Click Next and you can customize your Raspberry Pi OS installation. Click Edit Settings. Set a preferred name that the Pi should show as on the network. Continue and give a password for your username. You can also feed your network credentials here, but we will do that later at first boot. Click Yes to apply the settings and write the image to the SSD. The write should be complete in a few minutes. Once done, eject the SSD, unplug the USB to SATA adapter and plug it into the Raspberry Pi. I will use a USB hub in between and it will serve as a port protector. You see, USB ports become loose after a while. USB-A has a rather low rating of 1500 mating cycles, and using a hub will protect the host port on the Pi 5. This hub has one USB 3.0 port which is capable of 5 Gbps and 3 USB 2.0 ports to which you can connect low bandwidth devices like a wireless keyboard and mouse. I will use the faster USB 3.0 port for the SSD. Now that you have connected everything, power it on. I have used 3 generations of Pis earlier. I can assuredly tell you that this Pi 5 feels very fast. It just booted so quick. Awesome. You can now connect to the Wi-Fi network. Select your country. This newer version of the Raspberry Pi OS uses Network Manager for Wi-Fi networks. It will make things easy since you don't have to use commands to manage local IP addresses or forget Wi-Fi networks. Select the Wi-Fi network and enter the password. The Pi 5 is now connected to the internet and you can update the software on it. Along with the newer processor, this Pi 5 also has faster graphics. The Pi 4 struggled to play 60 FPS videos. Let's see how well the Pi 5 handles it. I don't see the 4K 60 option here, but Full HD 60 FPS seems to do alright. The playback is smooth since the frame drops are minimal. You can add plugins to the taskbar and live monitor the system performance. I will add CPU, GPU and the temperature monitor. Right now, while playing this video, the CPU usage is around 50% and the GPU usage is around 30%. Looks like the Pi 5 has plenty of headroom for multitasking. Initial impressions of this Pi 5 are very good. It is fast and also has some headroom. Most likely, the Pi 5 is capable of becoming a daily driver and a true mini PC replacement in a much smaller package. Let me quickly explain a few workarounds too, just in case you encounter issues. I'm using the power supply of a Pi 4 and it can deliver only 3 amps. Although the Pi 5 can run with that amperage, I think it needs 5 amps for unlocking its maximum potential. For example, the available current on the USB-C is restricted to 600 milliamps with a 3 amp power supply, whereas it can go up to 1.6 amps with a 5 amp power supply. This will allow us to use power-hungry SSDs, hard disks, and other USB peripherals. There is an indicator on the Pi when the power supply is not up to the mark. See this Pi 4 for example, the red LED glowing continuously indicates that the voltage is sufficient. A blinking or a turned off red LED is a sign that the power supply is not up to the mark. The Pi 5 with an inadequate 3 amp power supply will have the red LED turned off. If you are booting from the SSD, it will halt at boot screen and display the message. USB boot requires high current power supply. You can press the power button to temporarily enable max current and boot the Pi. If you want to avoid pressing the power button at every boot, just set the USB max current enable equal to 1 in config.txt. If you have stability issues because of this lower amperage power supply, you can opt to boot from the microSD card instead of the SSD. The process of preparing the bootable media is exactly the same. Insert the microSD card into the card reader, choose the Pi 5, select the image, choose the storage device, customize and write it. Eject the microSD card and insert it into the slot of the Pi 5. If it still does not boot and you see a blinking green light, just remove all USB peripherals and hubs. Connect the keyboard and mouse directly to the Pi or use a Bluetooth keyboard instead. Recently, I reviewed a Bluetooth keyboard with Trackpad on this channel, and that one is compatible with all the Pis. Check it out if you need one. I will leave a link to the review in the description. This Pi 5 should boot alright and work alright with the lean power supply now. You will see that it is slower because the microSD card can only read at 100 Mbps compared to the 300 Mbps of the SSD. This is only a temporary fix but not a long-term solution. Although microSD cards and SSDs are made of flash memory, SSDs have superior controllers which will relocate data from worn out flash cells. This will extend the life of the SSDs and you should prefer them for reliability. All in all, the Pi 5 needs a 5 amp power supply, preferably the official power supply. Although higher wattage power supplies are available in the market, they achieve the wattage with increased voltage rather than more current. Even for 60 watt power adapters, the available current at 5 volts is only 3 amps, which is insufficient for the Pi. So I say it again, get the official power supply. They're out of stock now, but I will wait for mine. I want to overclock this Pi 5 and that is only possible with more amps. So I will wait. Hey, there's one more thing. What does the Pi 5 setup cost you in total? The Pi 5 is available in two options, the 4GB and 8GB, and they are priced at $60 and $80. The fan sync is $5, the power supply comes at $12, the 32GB micro SD card is for $5, or if you want to go with the SSD option, a 128GB SSD will cost you $10. You will need a USB to SATA adapter to use the SSD and that will cost you $5 more. You need a case too, but I suppose you have a spare soap box. Everything put together, you're looking at somewhere between $82 and $112 depending on what you choose. So, at the minimum of $82, you can get a very capable credit card sized computer. It can be your daily driver and is so frugal at power consumption that you can leave it on all the time. We did not come to the best part yet. These GPIO pins can interface with other electronics and you can control LEDs, motors, robots, whatnot. That's all for this episode. I know it's a long one, but I suppose it helped you in equal proportion. I will continue this series as I explore more about this new Pi 5. Subscribe if you want to be notified about those videos. This is Arjun and Vishnu, and we wish you a wonderful year ahead.